Well, hi there. It's July 1st, 2019. Uh, this is Journal 95, and I screwed up. Uh, this is actually T plus 90. Somehow I wound up with two T plus 87s, um, which may not sound like it's something important because we caught it, but actually it is important in a number of different ways, and I think I'm going to probably explore at least a couple of them. Um, I need a bone marrow biopsy um, before I go home. It's was supposed to be scheduled for Thursday the 11th. I think I've mentioned that before a number of times here as well. We hadn't heard anything about it, and today is perhaps uh, the second to the last Monday I'll be going to clinic, uh, especially if we head home on the 11th, or the 12th rather, after all the testing's done. We found out subsequently that the scheduling for a bone marrow biopsy and deep sedation, uh, because I've opted to be sedated for the bone marrow biopsy. And there's a simple reason for that, quite frankly. They never gave me a star. They never gave me any candy. They didn't offer me a trip to the toy box for not being sedated. And number one, it hurts. Don't let anybody ever tell you that it doesn't. Uh, if they tell you it doesn't, somebody's lying. Uh, and the the other reason is, even though you're anesthetized in that area and you're up, you can't help but move while they're punching a hole in your hip. Uh, so I'm not sure that I understand what the advantage of doing it without sedation. And I've done it two ways without and two ways with. And I got to tell you, that propofol nap is really delicious. Uh, so it doesn't make any sense. But right now we have scheduling conflicts. We just got a telephone call. I just got a telephone call having returned from the campus not that long ago. Um, just received a telephone call that said we were scheduled for me to have that done Friday morning, not Thursday morning. And the reason for the scheduling conflict probably is going to be availability of an anesthesiologist, which has to be present for that kind of a procedure if you're going to go under deep sedation, regardless of what the medium is. So right now we're facing a scheduling concept. Now, that's going to be difficult because we were supposed to be loading up the car, getting ready to leave here um, before the official checkout time, so we don't have to pay for an extra day. Um, but I can't really get mad at the hospital, and I can't get mad at any of the nurses there. I can't get mad at the scheduler because I just did the same thing with the journal, something as simple as the journal. In actually having 2 days identified as the same day for two different journal entries. So how can you get mad at somebody else for doing something that you did? Um, I don't know that it makes any sense. It doesn't make any sense to me. But it's a logistical nightmare. It really is, because this is something that we can't do alone. Um, I'm going to be pretty much useless for at least a couple of hours after the bone marrow biopsy is done, and I'm released uh, after I get out of the recovery room. And there are lots of things that are associated with this that go straight to the issue of change and how we all love and adapt to change so easily, so readily. And of course, that's absurd. I'm being facetious. But it's interesting. It's hard to figure out what that change is when you're swimming in it, when you're drowning in it. Uh, Things are always changing all the time, all around you, and it's difficult to determine where you are in all of that. I mean, uh, how you're adjusting to the change, how you're weathering the change, all of those things before. Now, I can tell you for a fact that if I made a mistake, if I was aware of a mistake like I made on the journal entry numbers and on especially on the transplant day numbers, I would have gone crazy. It would have driven me nuts. It would have made me absolutely unbearable to live with. Um, if I got a telephone call like I did from the scheduler at City of Hope saying that the only first available for bone marrow biopsy with deep sedation was Friday morning when I'm supposed to be helping Leslie pack up the cars and, um, working with our kids to to get us all packed up and back to the house in see me, I would have gone ballistic. I would have been out of control. I mean, I would have, if I didn't lose my temper with something like that occurring, I probably would have come damn close. That was the Mitch, the pre-transplant Mitch. That was the pre-symptom, um, symptomatic Mitch. That was the Mitch uh, before the diagnosis and after for a very long time. But it is not the post-transplant Mitch. Now I don't know how much of that is due to my 18-year-old Israeli donor and whatever his personality was like, and how much of that those stem cells have transported into my body, or whether it's just that I realize now so much more clearly than I did before what's really important. And what's really important is that I get the bone marrow biopsy. It's not terribly important when I get it, as long as I get it before I leave the hospital. And that's only because it saves a trip back to the hospital. Um, but is it important that I get it when we thought it would be scheduled for? Uh, I don't think so. And there's something else that I'm much more aware of, much more cognizant of now than I've ever been before. Um, and when it comes to not doing what you're supposed to do, what for failing to follow instructions, for failing to adhere to the diet, or the rules about hygiene, or cleaning the food before you eat it, or what you can eat and what you can't eat it. All of those things. There's a certain amount of contributory negligence involved here, right? Because if you choose not to do that and there's a consequence, um, then that consequence is yours to live with, because you participated in that decision, and ultimately you're responsible for whatever happens as a result. I mean, there's things that you have no control over, and there are things that you do. Uh, and maybe my ugly face is a good example of that. These two areas here on the side of my mouth, they never grew hair, ever, never ever grew hair. Never had to worry about shaving them when I trimmed my beard. They were clean and smooth as a baby's butt. Um, Now it goes window to window, right? It goes all the way across. Uh, all of that hair fell out during the chemo or as a result of the chemo. And now that it's growing back with the aid of my 18-year-old Israeli, evidently he's got a different hairline than I do. Of course, it wouldn't be hard to have a different hairline than I do. Uh, but it's different. I think I've come to realize through all of this is that different isn't bad necessarily. Different is just different and requires some adjustment and getting used to. And the things that would have driven me nuts and would have had me screaming or railing at the sky, lifting my fist to the heavens and admonishing whatever force that orders the universe for playing with me. Uh, is not the appropriate behavior, nor is it the appropriate outlook. So what I'm doing right now is patiently waiting for somebody to call me from the scheduling department at the hospital and tell me what we're going to do, and recognize that we're going to improvise, adapt, or overcome in order to make sure that we can do it. Um, Today was a clinic day. It was a good day. My numbers are good. I'm triple digits in platelets, which I never expected to beat. Platelets, according to what I've been told, are one of the last things to start to come up. And in my case, they're leading the way. My platelet reading today was 115. 150 is low normal. All I got to do is jiggle those numbers around a little bit and focus on that. And perhaps my hemoglobin numbers. My hemoglobin number was 9. 9 was a good number today. Of course, it's with somebody else's blood, so there's no reason for it not to be good. Uh, but it's still way below what a normal male adult would would have as a normal hemoglobin number, and I can't help but wonder what kind of an impact that's going to have when I finally have normal readings, or if I ever have low, readings and they're above low normal. It's going to be wonderful. So when it comes to the change that you're experiencing, take a deep breath, come up for air. Don't sweat the results as much as you probably would otherwise. It's all going to be okay. It's going to be okay because you want it to be okay. It's going to be okay because you make it okay. It's going to be okay because it's okay in your mind, and you see the future, and you see the future clearly for what it can be, what it should be, and what it might be, and what you want it to be. And then you've got to let your subconscious go to work on making all that happen. Till then, stay well, take care, and I'll talk to you tomorrow. Bye bye.